Here is a clip of Mitch McConnell last night. And it's really stunning. He's been hit by Kentucky's Governor Steve Beshear on this. But the idea that this isn't the main story every day on local news in Kentucky, that either their federal senator, the leader of the Senate, or the Republicans in the Senate, the would-be leader of the Senate in the event that Republicans take over, he either does not know what the Affordable Care Act / you want to call it Obamacare is, or he is just blatantly lying to the people of Kentucky. Here he is. He's said now in this debate, before this clip, we need to get rid of Obamacare, root and stock. That leaves you with basically nothing. When you take the root and stock, for instance, of a tree, there's nothing left. Maybe there's some leaves on the ground, but unlikely. Probably not. But then he goes on to say, but the existence of Obamacare in Kentucky, which is known as Connect Care, well, that will keep. Go.
Now, with regard to Connect, it's a state exchange. They can continue it if they'd like to. They'll have to pay for it because the grant will be over.
Pause it.
And with regard to...
It is a state exchange that exists only through the statutory obligation called the Affordable Care Act. It is funded only through the statute, the Affordable Care Act. Every single aspect of it, including the money spent to make the website, a function of the Affordable Care Act. If the Affordable Care Act did not exist, there'd be no statutory obligation for it. There'd be no money for it. It would completely fall apart. It would no longer exist. You'd get there, there'd be a 404 error code, and all the people getting subsidies from 133% of poverty to up to 400% of poverty would not receive those subsidies. That's all there is when it comes to Affordable Care Act.
The Medicaid expansion, that's a state decision. States can decide whether or not to expand Medicaid or not.
Pause it. They can decide whether or not to expand Medicaid. No, they can decide not to expand Medicaid, but they cannot decide to expand Medicaid because it is the Affordable Care Act that provides 90%, maybe a little bit more in the first 3 or 4 years of that expansion. So they can only decide not to have it. Continue.
State, the governor decided to expand Medicaid, and that...
And you would support the continuation of Connect?
Well, it's a state decision. Several states had...
But would you support it?
Well, that's fine, yeah. I think it's fine to have a website, yeah.
Well, it's also insured 521,000
no, it
Kentuckians. 85,000 of those are in the private insurance market. What would you do with them?
Those people, in all likelihood, are paying more for less. And the hospitals are now experiencing a new kind of uncompensated care.
So, in other words, I'm fine with keeping a website. Connect Care is bad. People don't like it, but that doesn't mean that we should get rid of it as long as we don't have any of the mechanism that actually creates it. This should just be the story every day in Kentucky, but I doubt that it is.